I'm Sandy Sims for STS Digital, covering features of the upcoming Accord Sequarallel sequencer module. This video is a tutorial on the TRAX Tracker MIDI CC Remote sequencer control feature. I've already added a sample percussion in TRAX Tracker 1, so I know what the tempo is. I'll create another TRAX Tracker dedicated to the new sequence we'll be adding. The remote sequencer control is destructive, so will only function when the record is turned on for a tracker and it's playing. I'll set the scale to major 7, no, minor 7. Now I'll play something in using a MIDI keyboard, which is a lot faster than plugging notes in manually. There's also user programmable scales unique to the TRAX trackers, but can be copied from song effects scales. I forgot to change the sequence size from the default 16 to 8 steps for this video. There can be up to 64, but this controller only has 33. There, that's better. Chords are just stacked with step lengths and default velocities, as I have no recording options keys turned on. When in the TRAX editor, function selections also controlled by an assigned MIDI CC number will display on the screen. In the record menu, there are 3 settings for remote step CC control feature. Function select CC number. To select 8 different functions for the series of CC controllers, on my board it's CC43. Note offset CC to change the root note if using scales. On my board it's CC number 42. CC number row start. This offset is where you want the step controller CCs to begin. The sliders on my controller start at CC11, so it's set to CC11. Some controllers won't go to CC1, so this option is a really good thing to have. These 3 settings are global for all tracks 1 to 5, but can be different for each song project. I set them to this in the initiation song 00, from which all other songs are created. Therefore, it remains consistent. Still, the options to change them is available. All of the other keyboard record options for the TRAX tracker will still work normally. This feature just enhances those. Renote mode keyboard option is very similar to the CC control of step, which only uses notes in lanes of the sequence, except that you're playing them in. Between the two, it's the best of both worlds, and they can be used together. The CC row should align step for step with the sequencer to make it easier to use. In this example, I'll only be using 8 steps, so only need 8 controls. But you could have all 64 steps with a programmable button or pad controller, or a whole lot of knobs. It's up to you. There are 8 different functions that these knobs or sliders can control with each step. The first is obviously pitch control. It's called renote, as that's what it does, reassign different notes to the steps. I've turned on the TRAX editor scale quantizer, which also works with this feature, and set it to minor 7. The root note can be changed remotely as well, which also displays in a large format, assuming one might be at a distance from the module. One cool thing to do is change the scale and only adjust some of the steps, then more, morphing until the new scale is complete. chords or multi-lane sequences will adapt to the scales as well, making this function pretty easy to use. Without the scale on, any note from MIDI 0 to 127 can be tweaked in, but it's pretty touchy. The next function, switching at CC value 16, is velocity control. When selected, all of the notes' velocities will appear if the tracker is in view. These will go from 1 to 127 and also control any velocity CV outputs assigned. If there is more than one note in a step, then all of them will match lane 1. At CC value 32 is note lengths. The CC range can go from 1/24th of a beat to just over 5 beats, slightly less than the manual control. Nonetheless, it gives another element of control over the sequence. At CC value 48 is note delay. I like to use this to put in some variation in the way of some varied swing or humanization, but can be used to clump notes up against others. The range is just under a full step in 2/24ths or 1/12th of a quarter note. Next at CC value 64 is note effects assignment. Any of the 8 note effects presets can be applied to any step. With a fresh factory reset, I'll have to pop in a couple to demonstrate it. Each track sequence can have its own 8 different effects presets set up. Each track's quick box can have up to 8 sequences, so we're talking a lot of effects combinations. Added into the Note Effects menu after this video, there is a copy from function here. It gives you the ability to copy from one effects to another in any of the tracks. And there's a whole lot of settings that can be made, so it's pretty useful. For this effects number 1, I'm just adding some echo. I'll make it tight 1/16, which is 6. Let's add an octave to the second echo with the echo chop transposer. Set to start at 1. So there's FX1 playing, but let's add another, FX2. We'll hear the changes because I've added them into the grid. I'll make this one chop the step into 6 and add a reverse curve to it. And finally transpose some of those chops. Now to randomize the transpose chop offset. A bit. And I'll set the effects mask map size to 6 steps to show the next function. Which is effects map. The effects map is a subsequencer that masks note effects when steps are turned off. The sidebar indicates this sequence. The sliders can turn each of the 6 on or off. I have turned off the first 2, which is shown here back in the effect settings. Just for fun, I'll have this effects number set the MIDI instrument to piano. Then select FX3 to change the instrument into a bell-like instrument. Steps with FX equals 3 will switch the instrument to the bell, while with FX2 back to the piano. As some of them are skipped by the effects mask, this can produce some pretty interesting results. I'll add an echo feed randomization and set a short 1/8 echo for the bell instrument. And now, wow, this gets really addictive, I'll tell you. Reduce the probability. A pair of MIDI CCs can be set in each effects. My favorite with this GM synth I'm using in this video is the resin cut filter. It's quite nice. Well, now I need to randomize that, so one more effects number 4. Set the cut to randomize more. Now I'll make a copy of this sequence to recreate it in a different key. I'll copy sequence A to sequence B. turned on playlist solo because this sequence B isn't in the playlist yet, so it won't play unless soloed. A second click solos it totally. Pressing plus plist adds a block into the playlist, so I'll click it a couple times to add 2 blocks. Let's go see. They are isolated so they sequence in their own group, so need to be joined to the A sequence. This playlist method is going to be changed, so don't study it too closely, just haven't got to it yet. There, joined. Time to monkey with the drums on TRAX 1 to demonstrate the last couple of TRAX Remote CC features. The functions are only visible when inside the TRAX editor, as I mentioned before, so the main display isn't cluttered up. The 7th function is kill steps. They aren't permanently deleted but are taken out of the sequence to MIDI and CV outputs. I find this useful to minimize or break down a sequence, and they can be recalled at any time. The last CC remote function is shift. The first 4 CCs in the assigned row will shift each lane in the grid range relatively from wherever the CC slider happens to be. This works great for percussive trigger sequences as well as tearing up chord progressions. Unlike shift in the editor, these notes and all of their parameters will be shifted together regardless of what is being displayed and over the full range of the sequence length. See the Sequarallel TRAX Tracker Shift video for more on shift. I hope you have enjoyed this little tutorial and learned a bit more about the Accord Sequarallel module's capabilities. Thanks for watching, and keep on patching.